オルアメ質問コーナーイエーイオールデイアメリカ略してオルアメ質問コーナーではウェブサイトオールデイアメリカ .com にいただいたお便りを厳選し取り上げた質問にテネシー州在住のあさみと
オレゴン州在住のめぐみが
できる限りお答えしています。ではまず前回の質問コーナーで取り上げさせていただきました愛さんへ一言伝えさせてください。わざわざお礼のお便りをいただきありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
励みになったとのことでとっても嬉しく思っています、引き続き応援していますので頑張ってください
ね。頑張ってください。本当に応援してます。
本当にリスナーの皆さんいつも温かい励ましのお便りをありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
今回はなんと記念すべき100回目の配信なのでいつもと違ったスペシャルバージョンでお届けしたいと思います、
いやーどうなんだ今回はどうなるんだということでスペシャル回でございますね。今回のエピソードは国際結婚あるある秘訣編なんですけれども、どんなところがですね今回スペシャルかと言いますと、実は私たちのハズバンズをですねゲストに迎えておりましてもう一緒にね質問に答えていきたいと思います。
イエーイ
イエーイなのかイエーイなのか
イエーイだよ
ね。ではまず起業のねお話のエピソードの回でもすでに登場していただいたあさみさん大好き旦那さんのマットさん来ていただけます？
Hi everyone, my name is Matt.
イエーイそして今回初登場なんですけれども、うちの夫のライアンです。
Hello, I'm Ryan.
イエーイ
ということでね、ちょっとね、今回またしても皆さんの、リスナーの皆さんの英語力に頼りっぱなしの回になりますけれども、大丈夫かな？
大丈夫です。よろしくお願いします。
皆さんついてきてくださいね。でね、今回ね、少し前にツイッターで国際結婚10年以上の私たちに何か質問ありますかというふうに皆さんに呼びかけたところですね、とっても興味深い質問をね、いただきましたので、その中から厳選して質問にお答えしていきたいと思います。早速ね、一つ目の質問をご紹介します。秋先住民の暮らしさんからの質問です。デートナイトや昼間のデートなどどんなところに行きますか？どこに行くのが好きですか？最近下の子がデイケアに行き始めて、8年ぶりに夫婦2人だけの時間が取れるようになりました。デートナイトは防犯上、旦那が行きたがらないため未経験なのですが、そろそろ行ってみたいなと思っています。ということで。
いやー、おめでとうございます、アキさん。8年ぶりのデート。
いやー、8年ぶりか。アキさんね、ありがとうございます、質問。
Aki-san, congratulations. I'm glad you get to go out and enjoy the world for a little bit now that the kids are a little bit older.
いや、本当新たなページの始まりですね。やっと子供たちが落ち着いてきて、やっと2人の夫婦の時間が楽しめるので楽しみですね。私たちがニヤニヤしてます。
私羨ましいな。うちね、まだ子供が3歳だからね。
ね、まだなかなかだよね。
そうなんですよね。
じゃあメグミックスから英語で質問をしてもらったら旦那が答えるかな？
Okay, first question is, where would you like to go on a date when you get a babysitter?
So our recent routine is going to dinner and then going to the bar and then going to Cotton Eye Joe. That is like country line dance club. That's our routine. That's what we like to do these days. But what about you, Megu?
Well, what are you, Ryan?
Routine is right now is pretty much just working home. Don't have a babysitter. But if we had one, it would be good to go out on a hike or
sounds good.
Go out someplace nice to eat, go someplace quiet. That would be nice.
Yeah, before we have a baby, we used to go out and find out a new place, eatery and like a bar and stuff. So we really enjoyed that. But actually we haven't done that for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The baby's
actually,
still little.
I can't remember when was the last time we went out at night with our other kid.
I think I remember those days. We didn't have babysitter for a long time and, we couldn't go out a lot. Yeah.
Super fortunate now that the kids are older, right? And they're more independent, and so even asking someone to watch them isn't such a chore, right? Because they take care of themselves. You literally can pop them in front of a board game or a book, or give them a sheet of paper and some crayons, and they can pretty much take care of themselves. They'll eat when they're hungry. They'll tell you if they're hungry. They'll go to the bathroom, and they'll completely leave you alone or engage with you as much as you want. So that part is nice. But also getting to act like we're dating again is a lot of fun, right? And having that ability to I was a club kid too when I was younger, but I was tired of having beer bottles broke across my head and all the other carnage that goes with it. So it's fun to go to a place like Cotton Eye Joe where it's a nice medium ground. It's still southern as hell, so we get to hear silly music and do silly line dancing, which is easy enough that I can do it and make a fool of myself. And there's 2-for-1 drink specials too, which is great.
It's so fun. I love dancing. I don't care which style. If I could dance, that's whole life of me. So
I'm not a twerk specialist, so line dancing is a nice compromise.
And then there's wide range of people over there.
Oh yeah,
from teenagers to 80, 90.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's really fun to be there. Like when we went to, they offer free line dance class there on Thursdays. Yeah. So we go there, and the old people just came from nowhere.
It's like 60% old people. And when we say old, all right, I'm 37, Sami's 40, so we're not the youngest, but these people are all 60 plus, 80, right? Yeah. 60 would be the young one. And they are getting it. I mean, just having the time of their life.
They're doing
wild.
great.
Yeah.
So, if they have nursing home there, we would love to go there. We will have blast.
Right. Yeah, I feel like, that the older people are more energetic than me, because I'm kind of always tired and sleepy.
Well, your back.
Yes, when the kids get older, I promise you're going to have a resurgence of energy that you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm not that old. It's just the child
kids.
Was sucking the life out of me.
Yes. So it's really fun to, go there and see young people too. They're young, healthy. They're not doing drugs. They're literally doing the dance. They want to learn, so it's really healthy.
Ryan, I'm sure even you notice it as a dad. Like we're not, always home with the kids, and we don't have to feed them. We're not preparing for food for them all the time. But it still is, life sucking. From at least in my experience, it was very much the same way, where it became such a monotonous routine of just always tired, and to give you a little light at the end of the tunnel as they do get older and establish a bit more independence, you'll be shocked at how much younger you start feeling all of a sudden.
I see.
Yes, absolutely. There's been a decline in my physical health as a result of not being able to exercise and be as active as I used to.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great thing. I do get to go to the gym now, which is nice. That I honestly probably contributes most to feeling better, right?
Right.
And what I noticed that when we go out, even when we go to the grocery shopping, just us without kids,
oh my God,
it's just so much fun.
We can kill 2 hours at the grocery store without the kids.
just walking around when we
2 hours in the grocery store.
We just forget why we are there. We start with the real shopping. And then we were like, all right, we get this and we get that. And then the other day I started talking about the Japanese dramas.
Oh, it's the worst.
The series, TV series. And, I was telling him that I was watching this Japanese drama. This girl loses 5 senses. And, I was just telling him story. It's really sad. And then we just started crying in the middle of the store.
Crying in the middle of the grocery store, walking around. It was highly embarrassing.
Yeah. We were like, why we are walking around grocery store crying? And then we just making circle in the store. It's just, fun. It just coming back from, we didn't get to date for a while, but when we start back dating, we were like, well, it's fun anywhere we go to.
Oh, yeah. I remember why I married you.
Right? So, I say like anywhere you want to try, just try to go and enjoy the time together. I don't think it matters where you go. If you like go hiking like you guys, it's fun. If you just, go stare at the ceilings together, that's fine too.
Or the stars. You can do the stars too. The ceiling is fine, but stars would be nice. Maybe a little more romantic.
Stars and the moon. Yeah.
Or the animals on the road.
Not the dead ones. No,
The animals on the road.
Ones? Okay.
Yeah, sometimes we can have time after our son go to bed and, a little bit of a time, like 30 minutes or an hour, just watch Netflix or something.
Yeah. Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Oh, セクシー英会話。
なんで
The meaning of the
なんで
Netflix and chill?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
He was like, hell yeah, I know.
I think I heard a high five back there.
Yeah, anything. Even with the kids, that's actually fun after, put them to bed early.
Oh, 7:30, time to go to bed. I'm like, what? Your son's still up. Yep, go to bed. Brush your teeth.
And we, you just sit down on the couch and just talk. Non-stop talking. It's fun.
Yeah, conversation is really important.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the, this is crazy. Of course, Asami and I are weird in general, but, we didn't have a TV for years. Years and years, we didn't have a TV. And so it forced us to talk, right? And, and that was even before, showing our age again, before social media was as prevalent as it is now in everyday life. We're lucky that early in our relationship, I mean, we couldn't afford a TV. That's why we didn't have one. Sure as hell couldn't afford cable, but, it forced us to talk. And so it became habit and it became part of our routine. And still to this day, it's like when the kids go to bed, a lot of bizarre conversation we find ourselves get into.
Yeah.
Like what is the bizarre conversation like?
A lot of it, I'd say like the first 30 minutes is just talking about the kids, and organizing life in general, right? What they're doing in school tomorrow, what we have planned for the week, what we have planned for the weekend, what changes were made. And then the rest of it is, probably more like gossipy stuff, like you'll never believe what I saw today. We kind of, geek out, goon out about, whatever
or
gossip
like
du jour.
when we were young. You did that and I did that and like all that, stuff we were young.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, actually we didn't have TV for a long time, right?
Well, I converted the computer to a TV.
We didn't watch TV, just sometimes we watch Netflix. And
I mean, it was, I guess, mostly me. I like to watch different kind of movies, mostly horror movies, which I really can't watch now because of having a kid.
Yeah.
I really was getting into the different Asian horror movies, like Korean horror movies, Japanese horror movies. Some of those really terrified me more than the American version. So,
right. Yeah, he's kind of horror movie freak.
So is Asami.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I had to train my kids, train them like
Focus on that word.
Little by little, introducing scary movies, like not movies. We started with a little bit scary.
Yeah. Like a YouTube video that might be considered scary.
Like fake ones, like big fake ones. And, right now they're like kind of okay to watch it. So like started with the not too scary movies. And it's getting there. Like we can get to watch scary movies sometimes, right?
Yeah, I have to pace the floor because it freaks me out so bad.
Me too.
I start walking and can't look at the TV.
Our son is 3 years old right now, but he's already fascinated about the Halloween stuff.
Slowly.
You did it, Ryan.
But I haven't mentioned or watched that stuff around him, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's genetic.
Yeah. Is your son?
Maybe.
Yeah, epigenetic at the least, right?
Never know. You want to go to the next question?
Yeah.
じゃあ次の質問に行きます。これね、また、アキさん、ダブルアキさんね。アキさんからの質問で、お二人の食生活事情を知りたいです。旦那さんとの味の好みや得意料理、お気に入り料理などを教えてくれたら嬉しいです。国際結婚は文化や食生活などいろいろ違うところがあると思います。生活習慣の違いなどびっくりされたことがあれば教えてほしいです。という質問なんですけれども、前回の塚地先生のね、ゲストの回で、お料理番組回ね。私がね、いかに料理をしてないか、料理レベルが低いかっていうのを、
めんどくさがりっていうところがね、全面に出た回でしたね。
全面に出ちゃったから、まあもちろんね、得意料理なんてのはないんですけれども、なのでちょっとここはね、旦那に、私のね、何の料理が好きかちょっと聞いてみようと思います。
聞きたい。
The second question is, what's your favorite meal that your wife cooks?
So I would say tonkatsu or takikomi gohan. Like those two. I'll never forget the first time I had takikomi gohan. That was at our apartment in Orange Mound.
Yeah.
And
small rice cooker.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those things where like we had to strategize the whole weekend. So it was like ramen 5 days a week. Maybe we could get like McDonald's or something one day a week, and then we would try and make something at the house. And I'll never forget the first time I had takikomi gohan. And I'm trying to eat with like chopsticks and stuff too. And so my hands were cramping. And at the time I had a pretty labor intensive job. So I was exhausted. My hands were already beat up and I could hardly use chopsticks. And Asami was yelling at me and calling me bakagaijin and stuff. And I didn't know what was going on.
Oh my God.
But I remember takikomi gohan was like the most satisfying thing I had ever eaten. And I was so hungry. And I was trying so hard to get it in my mouth as quick as I could with the chopsticks that to this day, every time I eat it, I'm brought back to that moment. And it's just very nostalgic.
That's really a cute story.
Right.
I just pictured that, like how the Matt, used that chopstick awkwardly.
Yeah, it's hard to pick up rice, right? So yeah, it was hard for him.
Yeah.
スプーン使えばよかったのに。
No, we didn't have spoons.
No spoons. It was only chopsticks.
I see.
And we stole plates from your parents' house.
Yeah, those were stolen.
So we didn't have a lot to choose.
We had a card table too that we ate on. It was real fancy.
I see. 炊き込みご飯ととんかつ。
とんかつ。
What about とんかつ? Do you have any specific story about tonkatsu?
No, I don't know why, but that's one of the things that I can eat 10 pounds of tonkatsu.
That's true. I had to cook so much.
I think being Southern, I grew up eating everything fried, right? Fried cornbread, fried catfish, everything is fried, fried chicken. And so it's a very familiar taste to me, and it's incredibly crispy, right? So it's like perfectly fried every time. And so for me, that's like the most perfect crossover meal. That and karage, I would say too.
Yeah.
Both of them, I could just eat my body weight in amount.
Yeah. I had to use oven sometimes for that, just because I had to put like 10, thick pork in that fry at the same time. So I don't need to stand in the kitchen forever.
オーブンでフライをするの? How do you do with the fry with the oven? I can't imagine that.
So if you have deeper pan, go ahead and put the oil in like super high temperature. And then when the oil got hot, I just go ahead and put everything, all the meat right there. And then just leave it in the oven, and then flip it, leave it in the oven, all cooked at the same time.
And we'll typically get like 3 pounds at a time.
Yeah.
And there's no
A lot
leftovers.
of meat.
Yeah. It's that, are you going to eat 3 pounds of meat for one day?
I would say Asami and the kids will probably put down a pound and a quarter, and then I'll for sure eat the remainder. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
食べちゃう
すげえな。へー
ズボラレシピ。
いや、でもいいね。その、揚げ物をオーブンでやるっていう。
What about you, Ryan?
ライアンどうですか ?Your turn.
My turn.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to pick quite one thing. I like a lot of different foods. I like the simplicity. I'll have to say onigiri.
おにぎり
Yeah.
おにぎりか。うん
Because you can put pretty much anything you want in there. And especially with when you had your aunt's umiboshi.
うん。
And
Oh.
you put it in there. That was so good.
Okay.
Yeah. That
Wow.
was, yeah.
もっといいもの作ってんだけどな。
そんなもん。
I just said I served you a lot more than that. That's
No,
okay.
I know. Well,
But
that
simple always
I
good.
can't think of all putting me on the spot like this. It's hard to narrow it down to one thing.
Okay.
Like all the food is good.
Surprising that you like the umeboshi.
Oh, the most sour, the better.
No way.
Yeah.
My
Yes
husband
way.
can't handle it.
I could probably eat 3 pounds of it right now.
My
Too
man.
much sodium.
Why you don't like umeboshi?
I do. It's okay. It's not my favorite. When I think of sour, again, Southern boy, I equate sour with really spicy, right? So buffalo sauce, hot sauce, and so
You like vinegar.
yeah, I like vinegar, right? And then a plum is not. It doesn't finish the same way, right? There's a sweetness underneath it, and I don't expect it, and so it's not my go-to.
そっかそっか、なるほどね。So what I'm lucky with him, with Ryan is he is pretty much open-minded for the different culture, different food. So when we first met each other, then he already could use hashi really well.
Oh wow!
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he could eat raw fish, like a sushi. It's not like a American sushi, but the genuine sushi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he likes wasabi and he likes, yeah, pretty much he's good at Japanese food.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were lucky that way. So here's another question. What was the most surprising difference between Japanese cuisine and American cuisine? Was there anything that was hard to get accustomed to?
For me, no, not really. I guess natto would be the only thing that I'm not going to go there anymore. But I grew up in a house, and God love my mom. She is one of the greatest people in the entire world. But my mom is the most horrific cook in the entire world.
Horrific.
And so food was always a matter of like, you ate to survive. It was never a moment of joy, right? The joy was being that we're all at the table and you eat, but there was nothing satiating about what we were eating, right? So the most surprising difference was everything was great and it was new and fresh and nothing that I had ever been accustomed to, right? Like, oh my God, you don't have to chew something 373 times to swallow it. Like, this is wild. I had never really eaten just plain white rice. I had like very Americanized sushi, right? From like a California roll or whatever, but I never had nigiri before. And going and sitting down at a restaurant and, Asami ordering that for me, eating it. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I will say that I can be fairly adventurous as a eater. I don't like a lot of sauces, but as long as meat, rice, vegetables, anything of that regard, I'll definitely do it. But I would say just the most shocking part was that in reality, I think the lack of intensity of flavor of Japanese food, nothing is very overwhelming with flavor, right? You have to really pay attention for the flavor that's in the food versus what I grew up with, which is like so much salt. It's like it's been cured in salt, right? Like, Southern style ham is so salty. You feel it like removing moisture from your mouth as you eat it. Versus, something that's salted in Japan. And Asami all the time is like, I'm sorry, I put too much salt. And I'm like, I hardly notice it. So I think it's it's actually having to seek out and pay attention to what you eat to actually taste it. It forced me to slow down and actually appreciate the fact that I was eating, not just for survival, but to enjoy food, right?
Like a real flavor from the meat. Like,
yes.
When we got married, I was like, you put Tabasco on everything.
Literally everything.
And I was like, well, I try my best to make the best taste, and you're just destroying it.
Yeah, ruin it.
Go Minnesota.
But, I'm getting used to that too. I know he enjoys the Tabasco flavor too. And it's just the difference between, how we eat and then how he grew up with. And, we have to meet in the middle.
When mom is cooking steaks and you're being served beef jerky, it's an interesting thing.
焼きすぎてビーフジャーキー状態でいつも出てくる。
When the dogs won't eat it, it's a chore.
犬も食べない。
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the paying attention to the taste is the kind of new idea to me.
Yes.
Blew my mind. Interesting.
What about you, Ryan?
Okay, I'm gonna say he's gourmet. He's really gourmet. His family is his mother's side is from Italy. So
good cook.
It's kind of proud of. So you're always proud of that part. He really has a keen taste, the sense of the taste.
Then my father's side has some Irish too. So there's some of those foods were introduced, or stuffed peppers and stuff. But similar to your mother, he couldn't cook steak. He didn't believe in any meat that could be eaten a bit rare. Everything had to be well done. And it was so well done for me, I couldn't eat it.
Yeah, dry and tough.
I eventually caught on. He would take a shower to get ready for work, and we had these those little wax paper cups, and I would eat what I could in front of him. Then when he went to take a shower, I would take the rest, put it in my empty cup, and crumple a napkin on top to hide it. So when he came out, he was like, "Good, you ate everything?" And I said, "Yes." And then I would throw it out because I just couldn't. And to this day, it's still hard for me to eat steaks. It has to be cooked medium or medium rare. Like I have to have it the right way. I can't have it too dry. If any meat's too dry, I can't eat it. But really, for me, the main difference, like Matt mentioned, a lot of American food is salty. It's really fatty. It's really just overwhelming, and it's even more overwhelming having cut a lot of stuff out where we were living before on our own, not really putting salt in food and stuff, or putting tons of butter in something. And when you actually remove that, at first everything kind of seems bland, but then your taste buds recalibrate. So even when you're eating the simplicity of like Japanese food, you could actually pull out all these different flavors and actually really appreciate it for what it is. And even with like American desserts, like they're so ungodly sweet.
Oh my God, right?
The solid of sugar.
And then, sugar with a lump of sugar on top. Right. But eating, I don't think there's been one Japanese sweet yet that I've eaten that has ever disappointed me. Everything I found is such like a great balance. I'm like, this is so good. This is so good. This is so fluffy. And I'm like, how is it like that?
Without a doubt, like it's honestly almost disgusting how sweet everything is in America. It's weird, especially after you try Japanese sweets. I remember the first time I tried one, I was like, I'm not sure. Is there even sugar in this? And then as you become more accustomed to it, you realize, it's like, man, I honestly do not feel good about eating pecan pie anymore. It's almost disgusting.
That's true. I'm still not used to those sugar because I don't know. I can eat it, 1 or 2 bites and I'm done with it. I'm like, okay, I had it good enough.
Yeah.
I had enough. Yeah.
You'll never finish it.
Never finish it.
I'm still the disgusting person that will eat it, but it's a guilty pleasure kind of thing. I feel terrible afterwards. More psychologically terrible.
That's true.
Ryan likes azuki beans.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't even like it.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know. There's a lot of stuff I don't even like in Japan.
そんな嫌いなの?
I don't, so, gaijin, I don't like it. I don't like any beans.
Oh.
You like balls, just not beans.
The sizes matters.
That is my character now.
Giant sausage lady.
Hush.
All right.
Anyways.
Let me move on here. So a friend of mine who I actually do a podcast with, The Grass Factor, shameless plug. A friend of mine, Ryan DeMay, turf buddy of mine, he had a couple of very introspective, very deep questions. And so I thought I would go ahead and pose these. The first one is, what have you learned about yourself as your spouse has taught you about their culture, customs, and traditions? As an American and very, very Southern, I'm from Mississippi, grew up in Memphis, and have always lived in the South. Meeting someone from Japan, and it was the first person I'd ever met from Japan. I didn't really know any Asian people to begin with. Memphis isn't what I would classify as a big Asian community. And except for my chemistry teacher, Miss Sue.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Sue.
Hey, Miss Sue. She thought I was the biggest loser in the whole world. I did ask her to prom, though, and it did not work. What I'd say there's a few things to note that obviously I would learn is number one is learning to appreciate individualism. I had no concept of what individualism versus collectivism was. And in meeting, Asami, who is a very individualist person who came from somewhere that is so collectivist, her being able to experience what I took for granted as an American, that when we talk about freedom and what exactly freedom means, I truly did not understand it until I met Asami. And that was one of the biggest shocking things to me, was to actually learn what freedom was, to appreciate freedom, and especially individualism and being able to express yourself as an individual. The other thing too, I would say, is that there's a lot of weird nuance of similarity between the South and in Japan. And to be honest, I could probably talk for an hour and a half about this. Yeah. But everything from, the respect of your elders, to the certain amount of gossip that goes on and bickering, in neighborhoods and apartment complexes. There's just a strange sense of nuance there. It's a very familiar feeling to me. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I would say is having really learned more about Japanese culture and what it was for Asami to uproot and decide that I'm going to build a new life in a foreign place, is an overwhelming amount of respect and drive to want to embrace the immigrant mindset, to leave your family behind, to leave your friends behind, everything that's familiar to you, to go into a new land and tackle it head on with everything you have, because legitimately it does. It takes everything you have to be able to do that. And where I thought I was like a tough guy before, I realized that I am not tough at all. I have nowhere near the strength that Asami does, because I don't know if I could have done it as seamless and as fearless and as headstrong as she did. And it really changed my outlook from a world perspective of the number of people, the sheer volume of people who are willing to take any risk whatsoever, whether it's crossing a desert, whether it's moving intercontinental, to just have the opportunity to build a new life. There's something, and I'm going to probably sound a little weird saying this, but I think there's something uniquely American about that, to give up everything that's familiar to you to come to America for opportunity. and growing up in America, that is something I 100% took for granted. And now having been exposed to in interracial or more specifically in international marriage, it's something I've learned to not take for granted and understand what that opportunity is and what that opportunity means. And it's definitely something that we make a very concerted effort to make sure our kids understand as well. And it's not just the impact it had on me; it's also the impact it had on my family too, right? The way it shaped my dad, the way it changed my mom, and especially my mom, who never went to high school. She made it to 8th grade, and was too poor in rural, middle of nowhere Mississippi to get to experience education. And the kind of educational experience it was to get to know her daughter-in-law and love her daughter-in-law and change her worldview too. I mean, it's just having Asami in our family and building a family with Asami. Now the Martins is it's changed every aspect of my view of the world. Even down to the most micro level of my day-to-day existence. Of when I think I'm going through a hard time, I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I didn't have to leave my family behind. I didn't have to leave my friends behind. If I want to talk to my mom, I don't have to worry about a 12-hour time change. And those are, if I want to go see my mom, maybe I have to drive 8 hours, but it's not a 14-hour flight and $3,000 to get there, right? And that it puts into perspective. It creates a whole new level of perspective that I did not understand. I couldn't feasibly comprehend what that meant until we got into a relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, I'm going to pin this on you next.
Whichever.
Wow. I don't know if I could fully understand what you said, but I understand that why you are the big fan of Asami.
Big balls. Bigger balls than I have.
なるほどね。
Uh-huh.
That's
I
me.
feel like sometimes, I feel like I share some of how his mom is. She's really strong, tough lady, but really sweet. You never expect how tough she's, how gentle she, actually acts. And I really respect her. And that's, she's my mom, right? Basically my mom. So I could talk to my mom, of course, but if I didn't have time to talk to my mom, I will definitely talk to his mom because she definitely have answer for me. How strong she is, I always respect how she handles bad situations.
I see. It's good.
Your turn.
Okay.
Your turn.
Well, I started learning about Japanese culture even before I met Megumi. So
that's the difference, right? Like, you already knew some Japanese culture and then you actually get to meet someone that's from Japan. Like, is there anything that shocks you?
Well, of course, it was quite funny and awkward at first with the language gap there. I'm still learning Japanese.
Lost in translation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was so horrible, but probably more frustrated with it than I was.
Yeah, I was frustrated too.
We all were.
Yeah.
Still do.
Oh, yeah. I can remember like Asami would, again, limited vocabulary, right? So if something didn't get done that day, I remember that the word she would use is lazy. And she wasn't meaning it in the sense of like cutting me down, but saying I'm lazy, but saying that like it didn't get done that day. Therefore, it was lazy. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I drove this old Bronco and the wheel had fallen off while I was driving down the road.
Oh my gosh.
In the middle of the road, and it took everything to get it back on. And so when I think I picked her up from school and then we got back to the apartment, she was like, the dishes didn't get done today. And I was like, I'm covered in grease from head to toe and brake dust and tire dust. And I was like, yeah, I had to put the wheel back on the car. And she was like, oh, lazy day. And I was like, lazy? What did you just say? You could see the like look on her face. Like, I didn't mean it that, I said something wrong and I didn't mean to say it wrong. And it was, it was one of those moments where we had to learn to decipher the language gap, right?
Right. I don't know. It's such a blur to me. I'm sure we had our moments, but I really don't remember.
Sounds like you have a 3-year-old.
Yeah. No, it's just the way my mind goes. It's new day, new adventures, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like what happened yesterday, I don't know. Doesn't matter anymore.
That is him. So he doesn't care the little things. He doesn't remember anything. For me, it's like a special moment of, our history, but he doesn't remember that.
I am so jealous.
Backwards.
Yeah. I'm the weird, like there are certain things that burn into my memory that I cannot forget. And of course, it's always the wrong things that burn into my memory too, right? And I remember to the most intricate detail. And, I'm like, why do I recall this? But, and then it's like important shit I can't remember. So it's ass backwards.
It's funny.
Yeah, that's Murphy's Law.
I'm not sure how it happens exactly. I used to have a pretty darn good memory when I was younger, and at some point it just slipped.
Yeah, that's part of being parent.
You get married, you get older, you have a kid.
Brain.
Yeah,
you stop sleeping right.
Being there, done that.
Touching base on what Matt was saying there, right? I mean, with the individualism and collectivism, there's good and bad points to both of that.
Yes.
I think here in America, we can be too individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can rely on, it's all about me, and walk over people and not even think twice about what we're doing because it's all about, I got to get what I got to get for me. So we got to also think about other people around us too. We also got to take care of our community so we could all thrive together, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like that balance of how can I get what I want, but also how can people around me thrive too?
Right.
So too much of one thing is never good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, yeah, right. Like one thing is never the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as traditions, I guess that's the benefit with Megumi and her family. I wouldn't consider them really devout, like traditional Japanese family. So I was expecting when I met her father, it'd be more like, you don't speak Japanese, so, I'm not going to give you a blessing, screw off kind of thing. But him and her mother were so inviting, all her family, really kind. So that was really great experience. And then, of course, we bonded over eating a lot of food.
Eat.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's our culture.
Which it works because that's similar to my Italian grandmother who's no longer alive, but she'll always be manja, eat more. So I was used to that. Something familiar. So it just felt right. As far as customs go, I'm not saying I'm a very religious person now, but I was raised Christian, and really, I mean, we don't really show our naked bodies to our family and stuff, right? That's usually more like personal, something that we do behind closed doors. And I mean, going to onsen is awesome.
Yeah.
Really liked it, but it was just like really awkward experience the first time, at least for me, because it's like, I did, but at that time, I didn't have my LASIK surgery. So when I took my glasses off, it was great. I didn't have to really pay attention to what was going on around me. But I did it, and it was a great experience. But that's just been part of my life. I've always been pushing myself to the edge of my comfort zone for my own personal growth, and that was another triumph. And I think that's what also helped me connect with Megumi here. We're both stubborn people, so we get along well that way because we're both pushing each other, really
pushing each other, fighting each other. Yes.
Did you go to the onsen with her dad?
No, that would have been more awkward.
That's my number one fear.
Right. Yeah.
He couldn't even handle the bathroom situation because, everyone tried to look like when he is, going, everyone's like, well, he's really tall. And, they were curious about what's there.
Shut the damn door! Shut the door!
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't have the chance to go to onsen together, but it was years ago. But before we have a kid, Ryan and I visited one of my uncle in Japan. They live in North, and we did hiking. It was early April, but still some snows on the mountain. But Ryan wear the shorts, short sleeves, a really thin jacket.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody looked at him.
Of course, really gaijin of him.
Yes. That's a cultural difference moment for me.
Right?
Me too,
I was
Ryan.
so comfortable though. If I wore pants, I would have been too hot.
Yeah. You were wearing shorts and t-shirt in the winter.
Yeah, it's Christmas. Yeah. Shorts is good enough.
So we talk a lot about individualism. So I wanted to add a little bit about how I felt because, I didn't really think about individualism and collectivism. When I came to the States, I was still individual in Japan and then States, I feel the same. But the fact that everyone else around me is like me too. So I felt more comfortable here. But the more I spend time in the States, a little bit stuff like what I was going to say, I forgot.
One thing I'll say is so Southern culture is way more collectivist than at least other areas of the U.S. I've visited. So for example, if you have tattoos in the South, and especially if you're in a real Southern town, you're immediately outcast as low class, right? Of course, all my buddies are tattooed from head to toe. I have no tattoos, which is odd, but all my friends are covered head to toe in tattoos and look, like really rough individuals. But I don't know. I always kind of hung around with that crowd, but it never dawned on me, the difference between an individualist and collectivist society until I met Asami, and she would tell me about the rules she had to follow in high school, for example. Well, it wasn't too wildly different because I went to a high school where we all had to wear the same thing. We had to have the hair off of our ears, had to wear a tie every day, but it was just baked in. That was Southern culture. That was what you did. When you went out on the weekends, you had to dress in the way that if you were in the middle of a party and shotgunning a beer, you could still walk into a job interview at any moment. That was how it was always phrased, right? You were always prepared for a job interview or an interaction with, a business owner or something of the sort. And so you always had to play a character of sorts. And then, meeting Asami, and Asami was like, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. Do not care at all whatsoever. There was a lot of times I didn't fit in a lot of situations in Japan, and I made myself fit in because I can, because I'm that kind of person. And that was when it dawned on me, right? And exactly like Ryan said, there has to be a certain amount of balance, right? And I think, especially in the U.S. right now, everything gets pushed to the extreme one way or the other. But in reality, there's harmony and balance, right? And trying to find the middle zone of both, because you can't leave your wallet on a train in the U.S. I took the train from Memphis to New Orleans in high school. If I would have left my wallet there, everything would have been gone. But you can in Japan, right? And there's a certain amount of individual responsibility, but you take on individual responsibility for the sake of society, right? And I think that is inherently good. But at the same time, it can always go too far, right? Where just because a person has a tattoo doesn't automatically outcast them as a bad person. That might just be their freedom of expression, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I remember now what I was going to say.
Right.
So yeah, there are a lot of similarity. Like when I was in Japan, who I was, easier in the States. But the more I spend time in the States, I realize I do not like making mistake. I noticed because he told me that if I make a little mistake, I go deep, like, oh my God, I made this little mistake. It's like the end of the world.
Like dropping a plate.
Yeah, dropping a plate, or I forgot something that we planned, but he was like, "Don't worry about it because it's not the end of the world." And I realized it's because that I grew up in collectivism. Like, if you make a mistake, you're a really bad person.
Or you dye your hair.
Yeah, you cannot make any little mistake. You're a loser if you make one mistake. So I was really careful not making mistake. I try to be perfect all the time. But when I came here, every time I make a mistake or I forget something, he tells me like, "Don't worry, it's not the end of the world. Let's go on." Then I, started to relax. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I'm still living.
Right.
So that's, when I realized like I was different in Japan, but maybe there's something that affected me too.
What about you, Mega?
Me?
Mega Mix.
Mega Mix.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself as you've learned more about American culture, or at least the culture that you got to experience through Ryan?
The biggest thing for me was the language barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit the wall. It's not only the relationship between my husband and I, but everything. Like I started to live in the US because I feel like I'm so isolated and I can't express myself. Then I was frustrated all the time. Then we had fight a lot, not punching, but the argument a lot.
Sure, yeah.
That misunderstanding. So one day we had argument, not yelling, but big argument. And Ryan said to me, like, I understood, or I understand, or something. It directly translated in my brain, wakatta, wakatta. So wakatta, wakatta is like a typical phrase of stopping the discussion. So I felt like that, no, you don't understand me. I have to talk. I have to prove myself. But he said, no, I understand. He repeated again and again. So I was like, okay, so explain why you understood me. So he explained. Then actually he understood really well what I wanted to say. So I was like, oh, so you understood me. Yes. So that is my like a breaking the wall moment. How I was trapped, my idea, build it up with my Japanese language. Understand mean directly translated to wakatta, but it doesn't mean that I thought. Before that, I thought myself is more like a flexible type of person, but I realized that how I have like biased myself. So from that moment, I have to be more like open-minded.
Yeah.
Culture.
Mega, if it makes you feel any better, I am the exact same way, except I'm a native English speaker.
Okay.
How many times do I say, do you understand? Do you understand? It's because, and a lot of that, for me at least, is I don't feel like I do a good job of articulating what I'm trying to communicate. And so I try to repeat it like 10 different ways.
Yeah.
And part of it is that I'm trying to make sense of what I say. And then the other part of it is trying to make sure that it's conveyed in such a way that Asami understands at the same time.
Yeah.
And then it turns into this cycle of just like self-deprecating behavior, right? I just wanted to say, you're not alone.
Yes. Like every time we argue, it's the same thing that, I do not have a lot of vocabulary. I feel like I'm not explaining enough and I keep talking to him like, did you understand what I mean?
Like, you know what I meant?
Yeah. So, it's really hard to understand each other like deeply. And it's gonna take forever. But we have to do it, and then we have to meet in the middle and find the comfortable spot that like we can continue our relationship.
Right.
So that's really hard, actually. With the different language behind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciate Ryan. He was really patient.
Yes. Me too.
Because if I were him, switch the position. So I had to be patient talking in Japanese with him. I don't think I can be patient like that.
Yeah. There are not a lot of people that's, really patient second language speaker.
You gotta be in love.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna do last question here, right? Last question, and we'll end this on a nice, positive, happy note. Last question is: what would be the most important piece of advice from present day Matt Nasami and Megu and Ryan to the Matt Nasami and Megu and Ryan who first met each other years ago about being in an interracial and international relationship? So, we've been married for 13 years. We married 4 months after we met, and I met Asami 1 week after she arrived in the U.S. Right, so it was very whirlwind. But when you get married, I think the one thing that I would tell us then is nothing that you're experiencing is important. It's all just a moment in time.
Yeah.
Is no matter how much it sucks, no matter how hard it feels, just keep putting one foot in front of the other because tomorrow will be better.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. What about you, Ryan, Megu?
For me, it would just be do it.
Yes.
Just
do it.
Simple like that. And I wouldn't see a need to have any notes of caution to myself because all those experiences not only strengthen myself, but it strengthened our relationship. So
Yep.
those things needed to happen.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yes.
Asami, I'm thinking about advice for young couples that are either newlyweds or are wanting to get married or are engaged, and the kind of advice that I would extend to them. For me, I think what I would stress is do not sweat the small things. There are certain things, right? There is a reason why that you think that the person you want to marry is the person you want to marry, right? And at all times, you should focus on that. The second thing is that, and I think this is very specific for men, is that you should always, 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 always improve yourself. Prioritize your wife and improve yourself. If you are not on a constant quest of self-improvement and you become lackadaisical or overly satisfied and you lose ambition, you're also losing ambition in your relationship. You're losing ambition in showing dedication and passion in your relationship. Do not let the passion leave. I understand that there's going to be certain times where, the relationship is way spicier than others, right? And I think that's normal, and there's a certain ebb and flow that goes with that. But if you're on a constant quest of self-improvement, it should ignite a fire within you to always want to prioritize your wife, to prioritize passion. And there's something about being able to make your spouse feel special and wanted and honored and give them confidence. It was funny. We just talked about this the other day, and give them confidence, right? That is self-returning in giving confidence in you, right? And I get it. It's easy as a guy to focus on yourself and what's in your head and all you have to work on. And, maybe you have a labor intensive job and you're tired. Get that out of your head. Do not make that priority. What you should make priority is your family, is the fact that it's not one, it's us. It's not me, it's we. And you lift each other up, right? And, we talk about this. Sometimes you have to pull, sometimes you have to push. And sometimes you're going to be better at one than you're going to be at the other. And it is what it is. But again, always prioritize your spouse. Always strive to be better, and always prioritize keeping passion alive in the relationship, because the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the bickering, the arguing, that's always just going to be part of a relationship, right? But at the end of the night, when you're laying in bed together and you look her in the eyes and you're 100% reminded that, oh my God, I am so in love with this woman, that is what it's all about. And if you can find that moment every day, every night, I promise each day you wake up is going to be better than the previous day. And it takes, you hear horror stories about marriage, and I cannot relate to any of them. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I cannot relate at all because every day I wake up with a bit more fire in me than I had the next day because I want to show my partner more. I want to do more for my partner. And by doing more, I get more satisfaction out of life.
Ooh-wee.
Damn.
I'm sweating here. So that's message from us. And, you know, it's us team. And if you're with someone you love and someone that's really important to you, you work it out. You find the way to enjoy each other. You don't need to worry about small things. Just go forward. Enjoy your life.
今回は国際結婚あるある秘訣編でした。皆さんお便りどうもありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。
オルアメ質問コーナーでは皆さんからいただいたご質問にお答えしていきます。ウェブサイト alldayamerica.com のお便り箱までお気軽にどうぞ。皆さんからのリクエスト、レビューやコメントなどいろいろな形でのご参加を楽しみにお待ちしております。オールデイアメリカは毎週金曜日の配信です。このポッドキャストが皆様の楽しい一日を過ごすきっかけになれたら嬉しいです。お相手は私めぐみと
あさみと
マットと
ラインでした。
では次回のエピソードもお楽しみに。
Have a good day!
Yep, it's all day America. They're breaking in again.
Stand by.